Good morning, everybody. My name is Richard Brent. I am the editor-in-chief of Briefing magazine. That's a monthly magazine that prides itself on exploring any challenge in the realm of smarter legal business management. And I think it's fair to say that there have been quite a few of those for us to get our teeth into over the last couple of months. Today, I'm delighted to be opening our Briefing 5P 2020 event, an occasion we've been running for 6 years now. As always, that focuses on new initiatives and ongoing efforts to join up several strategic levers within legal businesses: process, pricing, projects, and people, all designed to help firms to achieve the right level of our 5th P, which is profitability from their services, of course. This year, we are, of course, doing a hybrid format. We're running one special webinar every month, each dedicated to one of those 5 Ps in the run-up to the main event. Today it's the turn of process, and in the area of business development in particular, helping it on its mission to strengthen client relationships into trusted business partnerships. I got interviews this morning with leaders about what they're seeing and practical steps that they're taking on both sides of that relationship. I'd also like to say thank you to our own partner this morning, which is Introhive, a platform that applies machine learning and automation to help firms to improve the accuracy of the client relationship management that they hold, the client relationship management information that they hold, and increase the quality, the strength, and the timeliness of the insights that it can provide about who knows who in both organisations. Introhive's legal director, Alan Mercer, will join us a little later to give his own perspective on some of the things that we hear this morning. So, my first guest for this morning is Lindsey Elliott, who is the General Counsel at Savills Investment Management. She joined Savills in January 2018, and she has extensive experience within real estate and real assets, in particular of investment structures, including widely held funds, JVs, and club deals. And she moved in-house for the first time in 2011, so she has lots of experience and can bring probably different perspectives from different roles to the conversation this morning. Hello, Lindsey.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you.
Yes. Could you start by giving us a bit of an overview, maybe, of how your business currently, what sort of model your business currently has for working with law firms? If of course you do, I hope you do. For today, and also if you've either recently tried to move that in any different directions, or if it's something that you're thinking about, given where we are today.
Sure. Thanks, Richard. So, yeah, I mean, I think there are a number of different ways that businesses interact, both with legal functions and with their wider businesses. So perhaps if I just put into context how I'll answer this from my own experiences, is that, as you say, I've been in-house for just over 9 years, and I've always worked in departments or led departments which are predominantly outsourced legal functions. So a fairly small in-house team that focuses on the business and at high-level strategic risk management issues, partnering and working with law firms to do the wider transactional work, to be able to support us where we need multidisciplinary or international focus. So it's very much a sort of two pieces of legal work and 2 pieces of legal expertise needing to work together. So we use the external firms, as I say, both from a resource perspective, because without a small army in the complex investment management world and real estate and real assets worlds, we need to be able to work with law firms who can bring that to the table. So the business will often lead. When I say the business, I mean the business guys who are first line on the ground. They will be often leading day-to-day transactions and leading, therefore, the interaction with the law firms. And the in-house legal team needs that visibility to understand 2 things. Firstly, how the law firms in general are operating with us, both in terms of quality of the relationship, the advice that we're getting, and then on a more granular day-to-day level in terms of individual transactions or matters, whether that's a fund build, a piece of litigation, or buying or selling an asset, for example, where there's something that comes up as part of that. So, and just buying a single let asset, I'm talking property terms just because that's what I know most, but, I'm sure there are people can think about their equivalents to that. I don't need to get involved. I'll probably just know it's happening. Whereas if there's an issue, either because it hits our sensitivities or it's particularly high risk or something, then I'd want to be involved. In terms of what we're trying to change, I think we're trying to evolve more than fundamentally rip things up and start again, just by continuing to add structure, but not structure and process for the sake of it, but to ensure we have better visibility of what law firms are doing and to add consistency, no matter which law firm we're using, so far as possible. We're a big enough business that one firm is never going to fit everything that we need. We need a number of them, but trying to have as consistent an experience as possible so that our business guys can operate in a way that is straightforward and efficient for them.
One of the big words we're talking about today is collaboration.
Yeah.
Within that model, are there any particular sort of challenges for getting the collaboration at the right point in the work that you want it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, part of it is that there's when you have a lot of different people perhaps with different drivers involved, then that in itself presents the primary challenge. So I think that the way to deal with that is clear expectations. That's for me to set clear expectations within my business, but then also to communicate those expectations to the law firms. With an outsourced relationship like that and an outsourced model like that, we look to our law firms to partly be the judge of when to involve in-house legal, when to help the business understand what's going on, to understand where there are touch points that they may need to either escalate to us, or that us being in-house legal, or where there are points which they should just run with as the law firm. So it is quite difficult to always get that exact balance to ensure that there's enough visibility without slowing everything down. There's always a time critical nature to pretty much everything anyone does. And as I say, I think the ways to deal with that are partly around clear expectations and a clear, consistent model, and also then regular management information and reporting to clients, whoever's managing that relationship as a whole, if they're not involved in all the day-to-day, to monitor that and consistently improve. Okay.
Yeah. I think one of the sort of persistent themes that's come up when we've been running this event in person over the last 5 years is law firms' sort of understanding of the wider client's the client's wider strategy. I wonder what your sort of take on that is, and whether sort of over those 5 years, say you've been in-house since 2011, I think we said, whether you've seen any change in that, or whether there are any persistent gaps in law firms' understanding, or sort of their approaches to understanding the business.
Sure. I mean, I think you've identified this as being a really important theme that is I think fundamental to building a long-lasting partnership with a client, is to understand that individual client. So I definitely agree with you that that's a movement and a direction of travel. I think the firms who particularly seek to understand our strategy and direction are appreciated. It makes us feel that we're important to them, and everyone wants to feel important. But the underlying, serious note of that is it ensures that you get the right focus and direction to each individual transactional matter that they're working on. I think firms are getting better at this, and certainly getting far more questions like this from law firms when we are instructing them. And I recently implemented a panel at Savills IM for the first time. I did it in my previous roles to be for investors as well. And I definitely, those two programs were kind of 3 or 4 years apart in terms of doing them. And I definitely feel that the firms were asking more questions like this and engaging more with the answer. Which I think is actually just as important, probably more so actually, is it's not just feeling that they've ticked a box and they've got a piece of paper that says that they've done it, but actually really trying to get their heads around it and to engage with it. And I think firms are certainly improving on that. And I think when you talk about, well, whether there's a persistent gap in understanding, I think it is that engagement. I think also it is difficult when you go, having worked in law firms and in business, there are really key differences in the way that they're driven. I will accept, hands up, I haven't been in a law firm for a long time. My perception is law firms are run much more as businesses now, rather than sort of a separate kind of sector. But I think it is the gap in understanding can sometimes just be the practicality of how the legal advice will be used. And I think the better firms are at understanding strategy and priorities and how the legal advice fits in, the better they can provide that service and really cement that partnership that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. And is there a particular way that you prefer them to sort of ask you the questions to elicit that understanding? Client listening activities, for example. What's your experience of how those are, and are there any particular approaches that are better than others?
So I suppose there's a couple of different ways of doing this. I think perhaps the most effective is by doing this throughout the course of the relationship, whether that's following a panel refresh or perhaps being appointed for the first time, but maintaining that listening. It's listening throughout and asking questions throughout. So I think in terms of understanding our strategy, I've been invited along with my business side colleagues to go and speak to some of our firms to give them our strategy and ask questions. I think that really works well. But on individual matters, obviously, it depends on what it is, but on the big ones, understanding how that fits in, what our drivers are, what we're trying to achieve. Obviously, if I'm setting up an investment fund, it's fairly obvious what I'm trying to do there, but it can be a bit more nuanced than that. And having a proper kickoff meeting, engaging as we go, keeping an eye back to that strategy. And I think in terms of the really listening, it is, we all get taught, I'm sure, when we're managing people, how to actively listen and how to feel engaged. I think using that in the way that law firms engage with their clients is equally important. I've had firms who I feel just want to appoint me so that they can put the Savills IM logo or the Savills logo on their pitch books. Yeah, great for them, but that's not, I want to feel like actually they want to work for us, but not just have another tick in the box as someone that they've got a household name on. So I don't like to pretend that we're a household name, but it's that. And so it's really, as I say, cradle to grave, but in an active, ongoing way.
Okay. And what's your view on the extent to which firms of investment in technology can help with any of what we've talked about today? Have you seen particularly good examples of technology being used to help firms engage with your teams better?
Yeah, I think, actually probably more at my previous role, we're a much bigger organisation, but at Savills IM as well. I think, particularly on MI, I look for my regular firms for quarterly management information on what matters are being run and how much is on there, and what bills have we not got around to paying, and also what they've written off, because that's part of the value I can identify. It's all lovely to get it on a spreadsheet, but when you've got good tech, I think that it can be presented in a way that's user friendly, which is really important, but also it's just much more straightforward for everybody because you can play with the figures a bit and understand it a lot better. And I think also it can be quite indicative of a firm's approach. If it all seems very manual, you kind of think, how much are they investing in their infrastructure behind the scenes? If it all feels very straightforward, and that they've got all this available to them, it suggests to me a well-run business that is really trying to move with the times. I think actually it's partly the technology full stop to make everything more efficient for us or for them. But I think, as I say, it does also suggest something about the underlying firm. That's not to say that everything will always run completely smoothly, but if they seem to have thought about it, and to make their own lives and ours easier, then that's quite important too.
Interesting. Well, that's something we can possibly pick up again a bit later when we have a representative from Hogan Lovells and Introhive back as well. Thank you very much, Lindsey. I'm going to to move on to speak to our law firm guest now. We'll see you again a bit later on. Thank you. And as I just mentioned, I'm now joined by Adam Soames, who is the Global Head of Business Development and Strategy at Hogan Lovells for the law firm's take on this relationship. Hi, Adam.
Hi there, Richard. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well indeed. So can I start by asking you how this new sort of working life that we're all working through at the moment, how that's informed your approach at Hogan Lovells to business development and client relationships? Has it had any big impacts in terms of how you're managing process?
So yes, obviously our teams, certainly both the lawyers and our business services teams, including business development, have actually had to adapt to pretty quickly to the new normal, as people are calling it. But I think the question is actually how that's going to evolve, because I think it's changing very quickly. And I think the firms cope pretty well, actually, in terms of virtual working. We've had a pretty resilient, robust technology infrastructure around supporting virtual working. So it's worked very efficiently. In fact, I was saying that having been into the office a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, my technology seems to work better at home now than it does in the office. But more importantly, I think the way that we've been able to engage with clients in a different way has been really impressive, actually, virtually. I think both clients and law firms seem to have adapted very well to that, and very, very quickly. So I think actually it's had possibly a positive impact for us on client engagement. We'd certainly, as a firm, Hogan Lovells is, I think, renowned for delivering really good, high quality client service. But sometimes we aren't as proactive as other firms at staying in contact with our clients in between projects and matters. And actually, what we've seen is a real uptick in personal client outreach and more proactivity. And certainly early on in the crisis, I think we're a very people-oriented firm. People did reach out to clients to find out how they were getting on, what their challenges were. And to really kind of understand how we could support them effectively in this difficult and challenging time. So I think that's been very good. There's been a couple of other areas which I think have really prompted what I would describe as an entrepreneurial spirit across the firm. So not only obviously responding to some of those challenges and really hustling around some of the things which our clients were experiencing, but also we very quickly created a lot of content across the firm. And in a way, one of the challenges for us early on was actually trying to manage that. So actually to coordinate, because if you can imagine that in a firm the size of Hogan Lovells, we're producing a lot of content, we're reaching out to clients, you then multiply that up across multiple law firms. I'm sure Lindsey would have experienced a lot of information coming across her desk and outreach from firms. How do you make sure that we're not bombarding the clients too much, and we're doing it in a coordinated and personalised way? And so very early on, very quickly, we recognised this being a potential challenge. We established proper governance around the firm and some task force to centralise the approach and really focus around our key clients and our key contacts at those clients. And rather than just sending out generic communications and emails, we really personalised the approach and had our partners in an organised way sending out either personalised emails or even picking up the phone on particular issues. So that's really what we've done and what we needed to do to try to get on top of the response to the COVID crisis. So yeah.
How much would you say your investment you made in technology in the last couple of years, 3 years maybe, has meant that you were able to do that better than you would have been able to otherwise, in place these processes?
Yeah, I think it's had a real impact. I mean, we've invested quite heavily in not only updating our hardware, so we've got much better laptops, to enable for more mobile working. But actually things that we've also done over the last few years, we've got a much more resilient setup with our data centres, which actually has enabled us to be in a better position for remote working and virtual working, bearing in mind that we're also asking our lawyers, not right at the moment, but they've been needing to travel more to visit clients, and so therefore you also need to enable people to be able to work from a multiplicity of different places, not just from their desk in the office. And if anything, we actually want to encourage our partners ultimately to spend more time with clients when we can get back to that, of course. So the firm's done a great job in improving the infrastructure, and it is now very seamless working from home. But we've also invested in a number of tools, which I think has really helped us with that outreach process that we had around COVID. And just a few, I guess, highlights on that. So one of the things which we were able to do as part of this coordination around content is we actually created a global online guide for our clients. And we were able to get that up and running using our knowledge tools and knowledge bases, which we've invested in over the last couple of years. And very quickly, a client can very easily see from a range of issues around COVID, in particular jurisdictions and even in particular sectors, what the things which they need to think about. And that's become our primary tool in terms of helping to address clients' concerns and issues and give them a bit of a roadmap for how to address the situation within their businesses. Now, because of the way we've approached things, we started off making that guide available really to our key clients and contacts. We didn't make it widely available because actually we wanted to use it to reach out to clients personally. We have made it more widely available since, but we've used it as a way of actually understanding from our clients what it is that they're most interested in receiving, rather than us just developing something in a vacuum. So we've used it for personalised outreach and actually ask clients, do they want to actually get together with their peers to talk about particular issues? So we've used it again as a way of actually bringing some of our clients together. Introhive, obviously, Alan from Introhive. Introhive is something we've been rolling out in recent months, and that's really helped us take a more targeted approach to our clients. So it gives us the ability to really understand who knows who in our clients and how well we know them, and therefore who's best placed to lead the client outreach. Obviously, in a firm where we've got 800 partners and 3,000 lawyers across 6 continents, it is really challenging to get a full and up-to-date picture of our relationships. And so Introhive has actually taken us beyond the CRM system, which is more of a static tool. And that has really helped us as we've moved to this more personalised approach to communication with clients. And then obviously Zoom that I mentioned earlier, actually we've really been able to adapt very quickly. We didn't actually have that in place, and we put it in place within 4 weeks of kind of lockdowns that we experienced, not necessarily in Asia, but certainly in Europe. And we've been using that really successfully to run client meetings and events and even virtual dinners. So we've actually had some of our partners host virtual dinners with clients on particular hot topics and issues. And then earlier this week, we've actually ran a conference using a new online virtual conference platform. So again, people could go to different places and it was almost as if they're walking through a kind of an exhibition hall as well, where they were able to speak to people on different stands. And again, I think we're just having to adapt. And I'm not sure anytime soon we're going to end up with, lots of clients traveling to conferences and things like that. So we have to create a new way of engaging with clients. And then finally, there's a couple of things. We have implemented a new content management platform, HiQ, and again, that's helped us in all of this because it enables the clients to actually choose and take control of what they want to receive. And again, it helps with our coordination rather than bombarding clients with information. And also, I think we've seen an increased use of social media, especially things like LinkedIn to get content out. We use a tool called Clearview Social, which enables us to publish content and information very quickly. Because again, that's another way I think in which clients increasingly engage with communications, and it's a slightly different experience, slightly more informal. So yeah, I think we've adapted, and we've kind of hustled and become slightly more entrepreneurial in our approach, and technology certainly enabled us to do that.
Okay, yeah, so we talked, we often hear people, process, technology, something that's said to me a few times. We've talked a bit about technology there. This is obviously the 5P, the process 5P. What about the people side though? You talk about this sort of entrepreneurial spirit. To what extent has that had to be guided and sort of shaped? Have you had to, or have you decided to put in place anything to manage people differently?
I wouldn't say that we've put in place anything specifically to manage people differently. I mean, we've obviously had to adapt again to the whole environment being virtual, and obviously Zoom and other tools have helped us engage with people in a personal way. I mean, with the rollout of any new technology or process, from experience, you know, any new system is only as good as the people that use it and the processes that sit around it. So from my perspective, technology is an enabler. And so therefore, you know, you've got to invest heavily in training and communications, and frankly, winning hearts and minds when you roll out any new system or process, or you enter into a new situation. And you need to really sell, you know, why is it going to make their lives easier or better, or help make money or save money? And I think the other thing to remember is that actually it needs to have a context. We shouldn't forget strategy in all of this. You really need the context to sell the business case and the need for change. You know, so what is the burning platform? What's the business rationale? And frankly, I think the same's true for clients and the way we engage with clients. You know, what is going to make our clients' lives easier? What is going to help them make money or save money? And so therefore, you know, all of this is about people and people engagement. So I think that that's, you know, that's really been at the heart of a lot of what we've done around the use of technology and changing the way that we're working.
Mm. In terms of that, getting the buy-in and you know, making the business case, is that something you've been doing with Introhive particularly? Are you at that point in the Introhive journey, or tell us a bit about how you're using it at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's early days, and we've kind of just recently rolled it out to our wider partnership. But you know, we've already seen a number of examples of where actually we've been able to identify relationships with clients that we didn't actually previously know about. And that helps us bring together our lawyers internally to more effectively coordinate. We've also been able to help facilitate introductions to other people in the firm through some of those relationships. But it's also helped us be a bit more targeted in our approach and really understand who are our closest relationships and how we're communicating with people. And also helps us identify actually when is communication with a client dropping off. Because I mentioned earlier, and that's been a bit of a challenge for us, I think, as a firm, and something we're trying to address. You know, actually, how do we stay in contact with clients in an appropriate way, and actually perhaps a more informal way, that it doesn't need, as Lindsey talked about earlier, to be a tick box exercise. Actually, it's about personal and real engagement. So, you know, I think that's all part of creating that authentic client experience.
Are there any wider projects in the sort of data management space that have sort of either come to the fore, you've had to reprioritise because of how you need to, you know, provide information either to people internally or clients in these new ways that we've been talking about?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've had to do a bit of reprioritization in terms of our projects for this year. Obviously, the focus early on was to ensure that our remote working environment was resilient and robust. And then obviously we needed to focus on really business critical projects. But like a lot of firms, in terms of managing cash flow, we've had to push certain things back, some important projects. So we were planning this year to begin to look at the future strategy and options for our client relationship management system. But actually, Introhive has helped us buy some time on that. And then the other area that we've been looking at over the past couple of years is around our data strategy. How is it managed? How is it correlated? How can we mine it to ensure that we're making better and more efficient business decisions? And, I imagine like a lot of professional services firms and even businesses, we've got lots of data in different places, in different silos, data puddles, as I call them. And so actually what we're doing at the moment is organising that and structuring it and trying to create, and we have created what I would describe as a data lake. Some people call it a data ocean. And that then enables you to begin to analyse that data in a different way and helps with creating things like management reporting and dashboards. And we've also begun to do a little bit of work in the data science space, run some experiments on how we use AI to help us reach better decisions on our data around, clients, the way we manage the business, almost to get kind of early warnings on when there may be kind of concerns or issues emerging. So, we're doing some interesting things that's still got to evolve in its early days, but I think that's really, really important. For us, the most important thing is to really understand what can we do to move the needle in creating stronger and more effective client relationships. And actually, in a way, a lot of that shouldn't be visible to the clients. What the client should be experiencing is just an increasingly better high quality service, better communication, better information flow. And we need to put that infrastructure in place to help support them.
Mm-hmm. In a moment, we'll bring our client representative back to talk a bit more to the two of you. But final question, what about sort of external sources of data? Is that something that you're looking at deriving more value from at all?
Yeah, and I think this comes back to this point about getting our data organised earlier. And I talked about our internal data, but actually, how can we then use external data again as part of that correlation to really enrich that and give us much more insight and intelligence? The way we look at it is, any intelligence that improves our understanding of clients, the markets in which they operate, and the opportunities and challenges they face in a timely way, and this is the important thing, is critical. So it actually enables us to think strategically and come up with ideas to help clients capitalize on those opportunities and address the challenges that they face. We've got a number of tools that we use to help in this. At the moment, we're rolling out a tool called Manzana, for instance, as our primary news and business intelligence tool. And actually, we'll integrate that with Introhive so that our partners and lawyers are getting a kind of a live view on some of the critical issues that our clients are facing. But even tools like LinkedIn are increasingly important in understanding not only the clients, but also the people, the individuals, because at the end of the day, it's a people business, and people do buy people. And so actually building those human personalized relationships and really understanding how our clients tick and how the individuals tick in our clients is absolutely critical to really delivering, a really holistic and deep-rooted relationship.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Adam. You're going to stay with us. I'm going to bring Lindsey back and also introduce Alan Mercer, who is the legal director at Introhive. Hello again, Lindsey.
Hello.
Lindsey, one of the things that I was interested in there was this idea of the virtual dinner party, the virtual client dinner party. Is that something you'd go for?
Yeah, why not? Why not? I think, as you say, the interpersonal is one of the really challenging pieces at the moment. So I was interested in hearing about that. Subject to, you know, whether a 6-year-old needs to have another story or something like that, which I'm sure you probably get all kinds of of Zoom bombing at that point as well.
I thought you were going to say subject to the structure of the meal there, but okay.
No, I can manage that.
Hi, Alan.
Hello, Richard.
Thank you for joining us. Alan, before we sort of widen the conversation, maybe can you first give us your take on sort of the part that, we've talked about Introhive quite a bit there, but the part that Introhive plays in facilitating the overall theme today, which is of course this increasingly collaborative, joined up relationship between law firm and client.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Richard. And thank you for joining us, Adam and Lindsey. Really pleased to have worked with Briefing to pull this together today. And it's, you know, it's really interesting to hear, again, a client's perspective on what they want from their advisors and how firms have responded to those over the last sort of 4 or 5 months. From the other side of the table, great to hear how Hogan Lovells are, you know, implementing processes and using technology to help them foster closer relationships with their clients. And you know, professional services firms is a key sector for Introhive, where we've worked with professional services firms for some time now, and mainly because our tool helps to understand relationships. And in professional services, relationships have always been critical to growth. In fact, I did a quick tally chart through today's presentation, and the word relationship was mentioned 26 times. Equally split between the client and the advisors as well, which was great to see. And you know, relationships are crucial. 68% of revenue comes from existing relationships. Law firms that foster better relationships with their clients and can measure that can also see an uptick in revenue, profitability, share of purse. Warm relationships allow partners to introduce their colleagues, to upsell and cross-sell. You know, and when business leaders are 5 times more likely to engage through a warm introduction rather than cold outreach, then understanding your relationships is really important. And you know, during these difficult times, it's clear to see that client relationships are now more important than ever, or have been. And these are the relationships which should help firms mitigate losses and bounce back quickly as business as usual sort of recommences. So yeah, you know, in case you haven't heard of Introhive, we're a Canadian technology company established in 2012, so we've been around a while, and we're the market leader in what's called the ERM, or the relationship intelligence space, and data automation, CRM automation, etc. Pleased to work with over 80 law firms, including Hogan Lovells, but firms ranging from just 100 or so lawyers that are keen to understand their relationships with their clients more effectively, right through to, you know, as I say, global firms like Hogan Lovells, and right up to the big 4, including PwC, with, you know, 100,000 users of our technology. And you know, whilst 2020 has no doubt been a difficult year, I think we're fortunate that our platform helps with some of the key challenges that firms are facing. And some of these which have been mentioned today, I just jotted down, is the, you know, one, the need for better data quality to enable firms to effectively communicate with the right people in their client base, and feed this into the huge uptick we've seen in digital communication, podcasts, webinars, etc. I think there's been webinar fatigue is creeping in now. So joining us today, none at all, no. So I guess whilst, you know, outdated and inaccurate data sat inside firms' CRM systems has been, you know, somewhat of a nuisance in the past, it's become a little bit more mission critical recently. Adam pointed out one of the areas that we can help, which is, you know, monitoring activity passively, so you can ensure that you aren't having clients that are being ignored. You know, clients aren't becoming lonely, but on the other side of that, clients aren't being bombarded from multiple departments, multiple jurisdictions or countries with messaging as well. And then finally, another use case is enabling better collaboration. You know, the offices recently have been redesigned to, you know, promote collaboration, to ensure people bump into each other at the coffee machine. So, you know, just to foster better collaboration and those sort of off the cuff chats. And without that, with remote teams, Introhive can help firms monitor again how relationships are trending, who knows who's been interacting with who. So yeah, it's been interesting to hear both sides of that coin today, and that relationships still matter. So, if you'd like to find out more about Introhive, then please let me know after today's call. So thank you again to everybody. Just before I'll finish now, and I'll pass back to Richard to compare today's Q&A.
Thank you very much, Alan. Obviously, you stick around as well, and feel free to get involved. A reminder: if you do have any questions yourselves listening in, do let us know in the Q&A chat there. Lindsey, this idea of personal relationships has sort of come to the fore through what we've been talking about, particularly around Introhive. We're talking about getting to know the individuals better as well as the firm-wide relationships. I just wonder if you've got a view on how much that would help someone in your position, or you managing your team.
Yeah, I think the firms that do that well really stand out to me. I think what Alan talks about with warm introductions, and Adam spoke about with not inundating us, but tailoring. I think all of that really resonates with me. Whether you're and actually what Alan talks about with data puddles, I thought was really interesting as well, because it's not just about that personal relationship; it's about that. Also information that's gained being shared around the business. One of the things that can frustrate or irritate me or others in the organisation is when you've explained something, whether that's how it works, or a sensitivity, or a change in strategy or a priority, to one set of people, and then you feel like you're re-educating the same firm again in another area because that information isn't being shared. So anything that firms can do, whether that's embracing technology or otherwise, to share that information, to me is a way to really reinforce the strength of those interactions and make it feel personal.
Yeah. I think there's something also in here about sort of increasing the sort of number of bonds potentially between the firm and the client as well. So we've talked about this before. We've heard about sort of the bow tie shape connection between firm and client, where too few people on one side, too few people on the other. Would your business be trying to create new connections between different people, maybe even not just the lawyers, between the law firm and the client?
Definitely. And so because of the model that we have, I want the relationship with my business side, so the people doing the investments and the deals on the transactions on a day-to-day basis, to be strong, as well as I know my responsibility is to oversee that relationship as a whole. If I'm redoing a panel or signing off on an instruction, yes, it's my view that matters, and ultimately, I have a decision-making power there. But it needs to be something that my business people are happy with as well. And part of the relationship management that I do is asking them for their experiences. So yes, I definitely think that having relationships which go across the business is really strong, but also using those in the right way. I have had a firm that it's only a list of who's who almost in terms of who knows what. I think, it's not just having the data, but how you use it effectively, and to make it feel like it's to create value rather than just having it for the sake of having it as well. So I think it's really using the tech to help, not just having the tech. The two things work really well in partnership together.
That's a very interesting one. Adam, have you? Is that something that you've looked at within Hogan Lovells? This idea of increasing the number of connections between client and law firm, and also this idea of sharing information better, such that you're not wasting Lindsey's time, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've spoken at maybe last year's 5P conference around our client engagement strategy, and this idea of moving, I think you mentioned, from a kind of a bow tie type relationship to then a kind of a reverse bow tie, where you know, the GC or the key contact, the client and the client relationship partners are becoming enablers. They're the facilitators of the relationship, and actually that people across the organisation are building relationships at all levels. And actually we even think that we can take it a step further to almost like symbiotic relationships, so you don't actually feel there's a divide between the client and the law firm, that actually we're working together collaboratively. There are projects that we work on together to actually mutually improve the way that we work together, including the use of innovation, technology and tools. And to me, that's getting closer to the nirvana, so that you actually feel like you're one organisation, one team working together, and possibly even collaborating with other legal and professional services firms. I think that's what I think clients want to see. So that symbiosis is really important. So we're looking all the time to evolve that, and you know, we introduced a new client program about 2 years ago, which was essentially around taking some of our client relationships and almost saying, right, what can we do differently? How can we actually put holistic 360-degree teams, as we call them, around that client? So not only partners and lawyers, but actually our business services teams, so that we're actually building relationships at all levels across the organisation. Because at the end of the day, it's our technology experts who are going to be best placed to have a conversation on technology related issues with the client or the client's IT teams. It's our finance people who are going to be able to give the finance teams and the clients the information that they need in terms of you know, managing billings and things like that. So you know, trying to get our lawyers to manage all that information isn't always the most effective and efficient way of dealing with things. So that's why we're trying to kind of approach things in a very different way. I suppose all the things that I talked about earlier around data and data puddles, as Lindsey says, and again, that's all about how can we give our clients the information that they need when they need it, and actually proactively. So one of the things which we've done systematically is begun to create, you know, dashboard information and a format for regular relationship updates to our major clients. The other thing that as well that we're also doing internally, when we bring new people onto a client team, or there's a new piece of work in a different jurisdiction or a different area of work, we're trying to produce briefing documents so that actually we can bring those new lawyers up to speed with how the client likes to work, and the things which we need to do, what we need to comply with in terms of arrangements that we have in place with the client. Because, you know, that is a way you create that seamless experience. I think, Richard, I've talked before about the client journey. The client goes through a journey with the firm, and at any stage, if something falls down that journey, it actually detracts substantially from the overall relationship. So these are all about what I call marginal gains. How can you improve the experience all the way through the journey that the client has with the firm? And so those are the types of things which we're working on. And interesting enough, it's not the big things, it's actually the little things that really make the difference.
That's interesting. What's your perspective on that, Lindsey?
I'm nodding hard, because I agree. It often is the little things that can really let things down or really make it, and that is little things. You know, say when you talked about how the client likes to work, you know, and I think that's, you know, we're going back to your process theme of the day. You know, many clients have a particular process for having documents executed, or something like that. I cannot, you know, everywhere I've worked in investment management has a bit of a process around that. And when a firm doesn't seem to know about it, even though you know another part of it really does, that can be quite frustrating. Or indeed, the number of times I get execution blocks which just are wrong. It's little things like that which are small details, but actually can be the key visibility that a firm gets in a particular interaction or particular area, and can just and then actually can hit the senior people's radar, because they're the ones who are often signing a document. So I mean, it's just one example, but you know, I really strongly agree with Adam on that. I think just going back as well, though, to this point around bringing in different people on the relationships to different expertises, whether that's legal or non-legal within a law firm. I support that, but I would also, not want to underestimate the value that a good relationship partner can bring. I think you still need that visibility and that ownership of that, and if you can do the two things together in tandem, that's really, really effective. Because at the same time, if someone, especially if I get someone in the business going, this isn't working, or a concern, for me, I don't necessarily want to dive into the detail and find out who or what has gone wrong. I want to be able to just talk to the relationship partner and go, have a little quiet word and say, look, it's not a big deal, but please, can you just fix it? And for them to feel like I've got that relationship, coming through, it is, I think that's really important as well.
Is the thing that distinguishes firms on that front about the individual person, or is it something that can be sort of made cultural? We hear a lot about sort of law firms cultures. Can you distinguish a truly client-centric or client-focused culture?
Yeah, no, look, I mean, culture is a buzzword across every business, and rightly so. It's something personally I'm quite passionate about, both in terms of my own individual business, but also who I deal with. And I think, in answer to your question, it is both. Because if you've got the good client relationship partner, there are people who are more naturally, personality-wise, inclined towards good relationship management. So, that is something that is important, but they need to have the backup behind them. And if the firm sees it as important and the firm puts all the right tools in place, then that's key as well. So yes, it's personality wise, but also, you can tell a firm's culture, not just from the relationship partner, but who else you deal with, I think. And that's really important as well. And, and not just the senior levels, I'm at the point at the moment where I'm dealing with the partners on a day-to-day basis, and scarily my contemporaries are partners now. But I still sometimes need to ring a middle level person just for a quick answer on what's happening on something. And if they feel empowered to be able to talk to the clients, and they seem to be engaged and know what's going on, that's also indicative of a firm's culture. And I think it's really important and not to be underestimated as well. So, law firms used to be quite difficult places to work. I think an awful lot of progress has been made, at least by the good ones. And I'm sure Hogan Lovells is one of them, from hearing the way Adam talks about it. But I think it all adds up into a better relationship and a stronger process if there's a culture behind it of engagement for everybody.
The point has been made to me that one of the potential effects of this crisis has been to improve the sort of the personal, the human relationship between law firm and client. You said there that law firms have got better at this sort of thing, and the fact that you're sort of sitting here seeing each other's rooms, or in my case a rather boring white office wall, sort of helps with that sort of personal touch. I don't know if you found that to be the case.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the whole crisis has been very unifying for everybody. There's the common denominator is staying safe and staying well. I think the challenge now for everybody is to be able to preserve that. But yeah, I mean, we've all got the viral videos of kids coming in and everyone just carries on. But also just the individual circumstances that everybody find themselves in. There's a lot of commonality now in those experiences that will fade as we all start going back to work, however much we all go back to work. Some people will want to go back 5 days a week, and I wish them well with that. But I think it's how do we continue that? And I think that is building on and preserving the relationship and that interpersonal play that has been built over the last few months. And as you say, seeing other people's houses, I like Adam's house. I'm not sure if that's real, but I think that's a Zoom background, but I want to go there.
Yeah, we were talking, weren't we, just before we all started, about the sort of potential return to the office space and what that might be for Lindsey, and Adam was saying, you need to, law firms will need to think about how clients want to.
Yep.
Do they want to maintain these new ways of working that people have had to adopt, or will they want to return to meetings in offices and workshops in offices and the like? Any view on that?
I think, we've spoken a little bit about this before. It's almost like there'll be quite a hybrid and tailored approach. Some people, I look across my own business, some people are raring to go and can't wait to get back into the office. Other people are a lot more reticent about that, whether it's their own comfort levels, risk levels, or their own personal circumstances. So I think, we'll evolve not to completely abandon the in-person workshops or in-person conferences, but have much more of a varied approach. And some of these will be done via webinar, which, even if you're the sort of person who wants or who can or wants to be in the office a lot, even when you're in the office, you can't always nip across town. If you, no, I'm being very London centric there, I apologize. But you can't always nip across to the office because you might not be based in London. I don't live in London personally. I'm not far out, but if I don't always, webinars are really much more convenient sometimes, because it might be a day that I just can't get to a conference, even if I'm in London anyway. Or firms with regional offerings, like I see, are increasingly offering in Edinburgh or Manchester or wherever they're based. If those are done via Zoom or something as well, I think it's that combined approach and the embracing of web based technology to be able to share those across the globe, not just within the UK, but across the globe. I think we've started on a path, and it'll be about what of the past comes back in, and how much do we combine that with the present.
Yes, what that hybrid shape looks like.
Exactly.
We've got a very quick question before we close. It's for Adam. Adam, simply, what was the platform that you mentioned that Hogan Lovells are integrating with Introhive to serve clients?
Yeah, it was. I think it was Manzama that which is this news syndication tool, news intelligence syndication tool, which I think Introhive, there's a number of external tools and feeds that it can integrate with, Manzama being one of them. Alan may be able to comment on that, but it's a I think, a path.
Yeah, we have an out-of-the-box plugin for the likes of Manzama, but pretty much any data you have in a system in your business that or external that has an API, you could pull that data in to part of Introhive and get that sent out to your partners, your people via email when they might need it. So yeah, we can act as that glue between different systems and different data puddles. I'm going to use that from now on. So
and this is about getting sort of better at more sort of general horizon scanning, sort of seeing what else is going on and bringing it all together, I suppose. Is it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I just touching on a couple of points about the bow tie and client experience. I think relationship capital is now a term that you hear more often. Firms have had intangible and tangible assets for years, and I think relationship capital is now one that they can understand, measure, manage more effectively with technology that's out there. And no more is it the fact that a partner has his clients and her clients and it's their relationships. I think firms are now awake to the fact that no, these are our relationships, these are our clients, and being able to see who knows who and share that information is creating a better experience for clients ultimately. The client know who they know at your firm, you should know who you know as well. So yeah, relationship capital now is measurable, more manageable than ever before, and yeah, glad to be helping in that space.
Excellent. Thank you. I hope we can all get back to some face-to-face relationship time at some point soon. But thank you very much. When we can, of course, when it's safe to do so. Thank you very much to Adam and to Lindsey and to Alan for all of your time this morning. We've just about hit the hour. Thank you all for joining us to hear all about that. And we will have another webinar on our next P for you very soon in September. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.